Journey by Shirley Geok-Lin Lim, 1995. Last night she had dreamt she was shut away in a subterranean world. She had wandered in labyrinths of a thick brown claustrophobia. So dense was the air that her ears felt clogged with cotton wool, and her feet trod slippery over ground strewn with skulls. This dense silence was her holding her breath, conscious of malevolent eyes in the darkness, watching. Skulls smiled without friendship, then began moving around her in slow monotony, circling formally, one after the other, as in a ritual dance. She knew then that if she could not open her eyes, she would never find her way back. She would have to stay in that labyrinthine world, separated from that breathing body, which was hers, but which lay apart, secure in bed and lost. She tried to cry out, only her mouth twisted soundlessly. She concentrated on opening her eyes, counting 1, 2, 3, pitching her muscles for the effort, but it was a long time before she succeeded. Night was blacker than the dream twilight. It walled up and pressed into her eyes, a pleasant sensation recalling her from the trembling sweet tenor into which she had tumbled. Now she sat in a half-empty bus. It jolted to a halt at every stop, but no one got in, nor did anyone get off. She was caught up in its reckless rush as it butted stubbornly against the road curb, swung around corners with a wounded shriek, shaking its whole frame in a frenzy of movement, unthinking, self-absorbed, down the straight roads past the housing estates on either side. The rows of houses started up, then fell back, and shrouded in the greying evening. Now they put on their lights, dusky yellow, blue, and dim, smoky red, futile stabs in the twilight, which invaded the interior of the bus with a deeper gloom. Stars and moon had not yet shown themselves, perhaps would not appear tonight. The passengers were as dull as the sky, each set shut in whatever thoughts bred in his mind with the coming night, eyes marshalled inwards, only flickering to the doorway in anticipation at every violent thrust of the brakes. But no one passed through the doorway, either going down or coming up. The one woman appeared as well-worn as her samfu, exhausted and faded by having had too many children, too much labor done, too many years lived. The collars of the men decapitated their heads from their shirts, so that they hung in the dusk, with cropped hair, thickened ears, dancing at every shudder of the engine. Only she defied the drab company in her bright uniform, fidgeting with her bag, gnawing her underlip, constantly peering out of the dusty window into the dustier evening to watch the roads whiz under. She was glad to climb down from the bus, yet there was a curious uncertainty as to where she was to go, a strong reluctance to move away from the stand. She thought if she stood there long enough, the bus would surely return on its journey back and bring her home. She did not have to go anyway, or she could take a walk, pretending she was going home to her family. There were numerous lanes branching off the little junction, numerous houses sitting under fat, protective trees, hiding behind fences and shut gates. There was the pleasant joy of choosing your own little lane, your own snug house. Still, she could not imagine herself belonging to any of these houses. Windows framed squares of light, curtains drawn to keep them in. Voices called out in a murmur of music. Sharp chings of spoon against plate reminded her she had not eaten. In these houses were whole families unaware of her standing hungry out in the dark. Families of mothers, fathers, and children living their daily meals and bedtime together, surrounded by their fenced-in gardens and their walls, unaware of her as much as though they and she were apart in separate worlds. She wondered whether her mother knew she was standing in front of these houses, and if she knew, whether she realized why and for what. It was not the same air she breathed in here, heavy with green smells of unknown shrubbery, delicate, sweet in her nostrils, fragrance of unseen flowers, weighing their stems down and entwining their heads together in the night. The unfamiliar air, as much as the disguising night, made her, though she was uncertain whether it was so, or exactly why, frightened. Her mother's instructions were clear enough, and, from being so often repeated, familiar. Walk down the path to your right. Houses on either side touched up the dark with light and hummed with sound. Dogs within their fenced yards ran up and down, barking abuse. One stepped out of shadow, but left her timid legs alone. 7th house to the left. She did not know what she had expected. It was one with the others around it. The gate opened unhesitatingly at her push. The garden was trim with bougainvillea and smelt of leaves. Now she was here, it seemed she had always known it would look like this. An altar faced the open door, unlighted candles placed before the household god. An inscrutable figure who sat and watched the domestic goings-on, always to be placated, never to be pleased, awful lord of the destiny of furniture, food, and family. A gold dragon paced along the sketch of a wall, snaking sinuously on its red paper, agleam with shining scales. Its predatory jaws yawned in eternal pursuit. Its talons fiercely rode the air untiringly. When a man emerged out of a darkened interior room, she was embarrassed. There was the suggestion she had not been unexpected. Yet he appeared ordinary, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, the way her father did after a meal. She told him what it was she had come for. He offered her a seat and went back into the room from which he had come. She sat down on a seedy wooden stool, then got up almost immediately, disliking to be discovered sitting down, for it appeared irrevocable, as if she had come and meant to stay for a long time. She was very hungry and anxious about catching the bus home. The gold dragonish contours swirled in their red field, jumped in the light, receded again into the red. She was tired of standing before he returned with the parcel. He took the money she gave him disinterestedly, yet she thought his eyes rifled her clothes, and she was glad to leave. The little parcel, wrapped roughly in brown paper and tied with a rubber band, crackled under the pressure of her fingers. It felt of dried leaves and twigs which crumbled even as she held it gently. As she went home, carefully aware that this time directions were reversed, she amused herself with wondering what potent magic the parcel contained. Her mother had kept food for her. The rice was cold, but she had warmed the salty soup and fish for her so that she fell asleep contented. The baby boy was suffering from wind. Eldest sister carried him in her arms, patting his back and crooning to him. I, go to sleep, little boy. I, little man, strong man, sleep. She could hear her father in the next room, with his friends squatting on their chairs and throwing dice, now and again spitting out an expletive. On the other side of the room, the 4 boys lay on their mats, exhausted with their play in the streets, their arms and legs flung carelessly across each other. Next to her, Celine slept, softly hiccuping in her sleep, crying even there, for she was second youngest, hardly 3 years old, and her mother had slapped her this evening. And their mother, strong, big-boned mother, who was not well, and had taken those leaves and twigs and earth. Medicine boiled into a black, vile brew lay scarcely a few feet away. She had joined the children after the last baby, and now even she could not remember when their mother had not slept with them. She was that presence in the night who had covered them with their blankets when rain pounded on the roof, and hugged them when they started up from nightmares, whimpering. Her mother was not well, but she was strong and always there. When she woke up, she lay quiet for a long while, wondering what it was that had wakened her. It was too dark to see. Only the deep breathing of her brothers and sisters told her she was not dreaming again. Even fretful baby was quiet in his cloth-slung cradle. Her father, in the next room, snorted in his sleep. She thought of them, each wrapped in his cocoon of dream, while she alone lay awake, conscious of the dark passing night. Yet there was something that woke her. She sat up. It was her mother. She heard her sigh, a muffled sound. A body twisted against the matted floor. Her mother was not well. She did not understand why, because she could not remember a time when this had happened. Now she was uncertain what to do. "Ayah," her mother groaned softly. "Ayah." The sounds of pain bewildered her. They stretched out for long minutes, hovered in the dark room, only to begin again. She heard her mother getting up slowly, the mat rustling under her feet. Footsteps stumbling across the room into the kitchen. Frightened, she got to her feet and followed. The bathroom door stood open. Her mother huddled on the floor, a dark shape moaning deeply to itself. She called out, whispered, uncertain whether she should put the lights on, and unwilling to share the pain which light would reveal. Her mother only groaned, very softly, yet with such distance and intensity that its disguise in the dark frightened her beyond reluctance, and she immediately switched on the lights. Dark messes were splattered on the floor. Her mother's clothes were blood red with a flow from some secret wound, while the woman herself squatted, eyes contracted, body rigid and contorted. She was frightened by what she saw. The blood seemed to gush from some fatal injury to the woman's flesh. This woman, now unrecognizable as her mother, who groaned and clutched her side, writhing. She was repulsed by the pain and blood. They lay beyond her experience, yet some instinctive sympathy, a habit of sex, made her arms and legs move. Hot water from the baby's flask, warmed towel, hot, thick, sweet milk given to that body as it contracted and shuddered and held itself rigid as if to will the cessation of that hidden, mysterious gush. When finally the woman lay asleep, covered with 2 blankets, asleep in the exhausted peace of past pain and suffering, she still moved about the little kitchen, sluicing the blackened floor, scrubbing the clothes while they stained the icy water with a dark dye. As she squatted in the bathroom, pouring the black water away, scrubbing the cloth furiously, she felt the unexpected inversion. Her mother, that strong, protective woman who had hugged her whenever she woke up from a nightmare. Tonight, she was gone. She could not comfort her in this frightening thing she was doing, washing away the blackened blood in the black night. She had told her. What did it matter what she had told her? The dragon, the man's eyes, the dark road. What was it that had frightened her last night and all those other nights? As she scrubbed the cloth with soap and scrubbed it in water and poured away the black water, she thought of her hands immersed in water, thought of the dye penetrating the pores and her skin and under her fingernails. She shuddered in the cold air, shuddered at the shock of cold water, and shuddering as she washed, the girl cried.